This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner, licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. Moments of Clarity's mission is to educate and end the stigma on mental health through the inspirational stories of our exceptional guests. You can join in the show by calling Tiffany toll-free at 866-826-1340 or on Facebook and Twitter at MOC with Tiffany. Now, here's Tiffany Werner.
Hi, thanks for tuning in, and this is Moments of Clarity. My name's Tiffany Werner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And happy Thursday, everyone. And I want to say hi to Ed behind the glass.
Stole my line. Happy Thursday.
I did it on purpose.
See, I was listening.
Good morning, Ed. How's your week been?
Not too bad.
Yeah, the weather's been pretty here, and can't complain.
It's starting to get warm again, though.
Yeah, well, that's what I like anyway. But, yeah, so we're going to have a great show today. And I have a good friend of mine, and he's been on the show. He's part of the Moments of Clarity team. And what we're talking about today is CPTSD. And it's not formally diagnosed in the DSM-5, but it's complex post-traumatic stress disorder, so to speak. But it's when we have more than one trauma in a lifetime, and it just keeps on, and how to heal from those things and how they affect you in your adulthood. And today my guest is a published author of When This Dust Settled, Between a Rock and a Hard Place. He's also a former TV host. He's a pastor and a child abuse survivor himself. And we're going to talk about how being a child abuse survivor and then a veteran can really compound that, make PTSD complex. And I want to welcome to Moments of Clarity, Joe Potosi.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, Joe.
How you doing?
How you doing? How are you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing better than good.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That would be great, right?
You know why?
Why?
You know why?
Because you're on Moments of Clarity.
I'm on Moments of Clarity.
Yeah.
And not only that, Tiffany, but I get to share some of the experiences I've had. Mm-hmm. Not to hear myself talk.
No.
You know, a lot of people that have a traumatic past or whatever struggle with sharing their stories, and they say it's hard to talk about it. I don't find that for myself.
That's good because you're healing.
It's a healing process for me, but now this is huge for me. By sharing my story, I'm trying to help other people, and by being transparent. And I've been on your show before, and you've gotten to be good friends. You know some of the things. Just from time to time, I kind of get caught off guard, and I get a little emotional when I'm sharing something that was extremely awful. However, it's good for me. It's therapeutic, and I just try to be as real as I am. I've always been a very real person. You don't like me? See ya. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be somebody I'm not.
Right.
You know? And my birthday's tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to be 21 again.
Well, then you can finally start legally smoking cigarettes. They raise the age.
I'm gonna go to Miami. I'm gonna go to Florida for spring break.
It's different.
Yeah, just joking.
Excuse me. Okay, so Joe, let's get a little bit back into your childhood. And I know that you've written a book, When the Dust Settled, Between a Rock and a Hard Place. So just briefly talk about the abuse you endured, because I really want to get into, when you were a veteran, or when you were serving as well.
Sounds good. Now, I was thinking about this earlier today. If you were to ask me what was the most traumatic experience or event I endured as a child, and not to sound some kind of way, but there were so many. But so my dad left when I was under 5, and I suffered physical and emotional abuse at the hands of both my mother and my stepfather. I'm sorry. And one of the most traumatic experiences I had from my mother is when she would get drunk and run a turn on the hot water, the tub, fill it up, the hallway would be filling up with steam, and she would physically throw me in this tub for no apparent reason. It happened 2 times that I can remember. And there was other events. I don't know how much time you want me to spend on that, but that really messed me up as a young child, right? I was like in 3rd grade, and I thought she loved me, right?
Yeah.
Why is she doing this to me? And I experienced the same type of abuse from my stepfather, only he was a lot stronger and a lot more vicious. And he had never shown any mercy. And on one occasion, I had a paper route that I quit because I was tired of the way he was treating my sister, my mother, my brother Greg. And he called me out on it. I came upstairs, he had me sit down at the table, he was cleaning his gun, and as he was talking to me, I kind of was looking at the ground, shaking in my boots, and I heard him put the gun back together. I kind of glanced up, and he was putting the bullets back in the gun, and he said, quite simply, "Give me one reason why I shouldn't pull the trigger."
Wow.
And I was frozen with fear. And then, click. Click, like he pulled the trigger.
Right, but there was bullets, or he was faking with the bullets?
Russian roulette. Like, it was a revolver. So you put 6 bullets in it, and you spin the chamber. And apparently he didn't put all 6 in, or I would have been dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a little kid, I didn't know that. And instantly I peed my pants, and I ran downstairs, and I hid. And
you've told me that story before, and you were ashamed that you even peed. You wet yourself.
I was, but
that's
you know what?
Kids' minds work when it's childhood.
I think if as a grown man, if that would happen, I probably would have peed my pants. I mean,
right.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and when I did something wrong, no matter what it was, I remember one time, I've never shared this story. We were locked out of the house. We all got home from school. It was like 20 below zero. And we had window wells. I don't know if your listeners remember what window wells are. You have like it's a window in your basement that kind of opens up halfway. There's like a well.
Okay.
Anyway, I was kicking on this window trying to get it open so one of my kid brothers could, shimmy through there and let us in the house. Well, I broke the window. And I didn't confess to it right away, and he found out about it. And he questioned all of us, and no one confessed to it. I didn't confess to it. And then one night, I finally confessed to it. I never forget, he was watching the movie Rocky. And I went to bed, and little did I know, he said, we'll deal with it later. He woke up 2 of my brothers, Marty and Greg, and he asked them how many swats he should give me with the wooden paddle. So he wakes me up out of a dead sleep, holds me up with one arm, and just wears me out with his wooden paddle. The back on my back, my butt, my legs, the back of my head, and just drops me like a sack of potatoes. So that's kind of stuff I experienced, and that was extremely traumatic as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you grew out of that a little bit, and of course that's traumatic, and that's trauma that wasn't resolved for a while for you.
Yes.
And then you enter into the Navy.
Yes, ma'am. So
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. So I went to boot camp in January in Chicago, so you can imagine it was really cold, right? Mm-hmm. And then I went to Memphis, Tennessee for school, where it was known as A School. Then I was stationed on the USS Kitty Hawk, CB-63, out of San Diego, California. And I love San Diego. So nice out there. Mm-hmm. We made a Westpac. Basically, we made a cruise all the way to Africa and back. Took a period of 5 months. And then the following spring and summer, we were preparing to make a world cruise. So we were just off the coast of San Diego. And at this time, I worked on the flight deck of the aircraft carrier. Now, I don't know if anyone knows much about that kind of work. The planes are launched off the ship and they land back on the ship to catch the wire. Well, there's 100 ways to be killed on the flight deck. You can get sucked up by an intake. You can get chopped up by propellers on airplanes. You can get blown up. A variety of different things can happen. Extremely, extremely dangerous. And when I first got there, there was a crew leader that I literally had to hang on. We all had to wear life vests and helmets and all that. He was showing me the ropes. He was showing me how to get around on the flight deck, etc. So I literally had to hang on to his life vest. Every step he made, I made. Every move he made, I made. Until I got acclimated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So about 3 or 4 months later, I became a crew leader. I had my own team, and it was in the evening. It had been raining all day, and I see one of my buddies. His name was Darren. He worked on the flight deck as well. He was in V1. He operated the catapult system, which when a plane is launched, there's an individual that checks. There's like basically a trap. He kind of makes sure there's no obstructions, that the shuttle didn't get broke, that everything's on the up and up. So me and him are talking. We're both going to our workstations. I go down onto the catwalk, which is just way below the flight deck, and I get on the radio. I have comms, and I tell my guys, what they needed to do. So I'm standing there, and then it was raining, and then it kind of stopped. And I was just watching operations, like planes taking off, and I was watching Darren doing his job. And then something sad and tragic happened. They had an S-2 airplane, which is an anti-submarine airplane. Maybe some of your listeners have seen those. When in flight, they have a big boom that sticks out the back.
Hold on, Joe. You're getting into some windy places. It's hard to hear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Hang on a second. I'm sorry.
I just want to be able to hear you correctly.
Sorry. So basically what happened was Darren was doing his job. And on the flight deck, we have something called a red light and a green light. And the airplane doesn't get launched unless it's a green light. They launched this airplane on a red light, and I see my friend get hit by this airplane. And the pilots are in G-force. The pilot called back to the control, and he said he thought he hit a bird. Mm-hmm. He didn't realize he hit my friend. So I immediately get on comms and announce man overboard. And what really, really upset me was they didn't even attempt to look for him until all the planes were landed, right? Mm. And at the time, I didn't understand it, but there's a rhyme and reason for everything, I suppose. But when that plane landed, they came out and they taped it off so people would stay away from it. It was a huge hole in the plane where it hit him. Oh. And you could see, like, part of his head was in there. It really messed me up because he was a good friend. He was my age. He had a wife at home that was 8 months pregnant, newly married, and the Navy told the San Diego media, basically they said it was his fault, and
Your
they blamed everything
fault?
on him. Yeah, they said it was my friend's fault. It wasn't the operator's fault. It was his fault. So there was a huge investigation, and they found that the Navy was at fault, and his wife got a huge settlement, but Darren was going, right? And I'm going to be honest with you about something. Since I've been out of the Navy, this is only the second time I've talked about this story. I kept it deep inside because it was so bad.
Maybe it's the hardest one for you to talk about.
It is hard.
I appreciate you sharing it with us today. We're going to take a break, but your younger brother Greg called in, and he's on hold, and we're going to go into our first break. And Joe, that is heart-wrenching what you experienced, and we're going to get back to that in a second, but stay tuned, and we'll be back with Moments of Clarity in just a moment.
You're listening to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner. We welcome your input at 866-826-1340. Tiffany will be right back after this.